AI-assisted game development, I think, is very powerful right now. I've been working on a game myself. It's a 3-match game, and what I realized is that the coding part is no longer the difficult part. You can get the help of an AI coding agent to whip you up basically any game, guide it along, create whatever you want. But what you can't get it to do is create graphics for you, is prepare assets, is to figure out tile sets and all of that sort of stuff. So that's why I created Sorceress, a game creation suite that's meant to go alongside with your favorite editor. You know, maybe you're using Cursor, maybe you're using Visual Studio, whatever the case may be. You can use whatever you want. This is meant to work alongside whatever you're normally using for programming. And this is meant to help you with the non-coding aspects of your game, which are a lot, and they can take a lot of time. Let me show you quickly what I mean. For example, we've got Slicer over here. I use Slicer all the time. For example, let's say I head over into my favorite image generator. By the way, I built in an image generator to the Sorceress editor. And let's say, okay, I need some icons for my game. I need some potions. Okay, so here's some potions. Great. I've generated up some nice selection of potions in the same art style using whatever my favorite image generation model is. Now I head on over to Slicer and upload that. And then what I can easily do is save out the little sections, right? So this happens all the time when you're using AI generative art. You just want to save out the sections. Okay, so I got this, I got that, I got that. Now I got a bunch of potions, but you may have noticed that I've been very lazily selecting these. Normally, if you're going to edit out icons, you can't lazily select them because they're going to be out of alignment, right? So you have to specifically choose the exact number of pixels on the left, top, bottom, right. No problem. What we're going to do is rough it out and choose what we want here. Grab our love potion, perfect, and then we're going to head on over into Sprite, which is another tool that I developed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to up my icons here. Choose the icons that I want to now prepare, and I'm going to actually, I'm going to actually chroma key those out because they do have a little bit of a background, I noticed. So I'm going to chroma key those out, and then what I'm going to say is, okay, I'm going to want those at 256 by 256, and I'm going to want these center. So look what happened when I centered them. Now every icon is perfect. Actually, I did notice that the chroma key was a little strong on that green one, and that can be a bit of an issue if you have a background that's the same color as some of the colors in your foreground. So if that is an issue for you, and what I usually do is I work around it. I choose a background color that's not like the foreground color. But if you don't want to do that, there's also another option that I wrote in. So what we've got over here is the background remover tool, and this is an AI powered background remover tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the images that I want to have my background removed from. You can batch queue them up. You don't have to do them one at a time, and I'm just going to click on process all. Okay, and then we've got all of our images that have now had their backgrounds removed perfectly. They're on transparent. I'm going to go ahead and click on save all to my computer, and I'm going to go back into Sprite with those backgrounds removed. And I'm going to upload those. And now since these have a nice transparent background, I'm going to be able to center these. No problem. Now let's see, 256, center. Let's slow that down so you can see what's going on. But as you can see, every icon is now perfectly placed center of the frame. I can go ahead and I can grab that as a zip file of images. I can grab that as a sprite sheet if I prefer. And there we have our perfectly prepared collection of icons, game icons, ready to go. Now those are a little bit oversized, so they'd probably be something like that in game. And beautiful. I mean, if you have ever done this by hand, preparing sprites by hand, getting everything in perfect alignment, oh, it's so boring. It's so time consuming. So Sprite was designed to work alongside whatever image generation that you like. There's so many models available, and it's basically meant to take what AI gives you and transform it into a game-ready asset. Now, speaking of AI image generation, I also wrote in ImGen and VidGen into the Sorceress game creation suite, and that is because I just wanted a faster and easier way to access the best image generation models and basically get them at the lowest price too. Everything is generated via the Replicate API, which means that you're paying the base level API cost. There's no markups that you might pay, for example, with other image generation, video generation suites. So for example, if I wanted to do pixel art of a warrior front view, something like that, but I didn't know which image generation model was going to give me the best results. Well, I might say, okay, let's go Nano Banana, let's go Seed Dream 4.5, let's go Flex 2 Pro, and I've got the latest and greatest models up here. I'll probably add some more that are a little off norm, off top tier, just like for some variation as time goes on. It's like, okay, how many do you want to do at the same time? And I'm going to go ahead and click on generate. It's also got all the costs calculated here. For example, one from each model would cost 17 cents. Four from each model would cost 68 cents. Well, that's a lot of images. That's, like I say, direct API pricing via Replicate, which means that there's no markups, but there is a cost per generation according to what the actual image models cost to use their API. I don't mark up any sort of generation costs. All I do is feed the API into Replicate. You're going to create your own API key and you'll keep track of exactly what you use. Okay, so now we've got some of our warrior character being generated. As you can see down here, it's like, okay, which one's doing the best job? Here's GPT image 1.5, which does this kind of art. Here's Nano Banana, which does this kind of art. I might have specified to put this on a neutral background, which I did not. Here's, well, Seed Dream and Flux and whatever are also coming up. But the nice thing about this is that you can select multiple models for the particular type of art goal that you have, and you can compare them really quickly and really easily and see which one does the best job, and then you can, you know, close in and figure out what sort of art style you're looking for. So for example, for me, GPT image 1.5 is clearly the kind of retro graphics that I'm looking for, so that's going to be perfect for me. For you, it might be something else. And I did, of course, write in the option for reference image models. Say I like this character here. I might want to add him into a reference model and say, okay, side and back view of this character. Now I already know I like the GPT image option, and that's what generated this initially, so there's no need to generate up everything of every kind. It's probably going to get it right in the first try, so I'm just going to generate one image here, and I'm going to go ahead and generate that up. Now, under each image model, there are preferences that you can set depending on what you want. These will save, and they will be your own defaults. Okay, let me show you another feature, and that's the VidGen. And actually from here, we could take our image. I'll go ahead and download that. And I'm going to head over to VidGen now, and what I can do is I can take my image, put it into the slot here. I could say something like walk in place, and I can choose which image models I want to get it to generate with. I've already actually done this for the sake of the tutorial video, and you can see which one gives you the best results. In this case, WAN 2.2 I thought did a pretty good job of creating a walk-in-place animation. Now, Kling usually does a better job, Kling 1.6 or 2.5, but in this case it actually turned around and started walking towards the camera, which is not quite what I want. I might want to say walk in place, maintain side view. I might want to give it some more specifications, but that's okay. Let's grab this WAN 2.2 model, and I can just show you a nice little flow for actually creating characters using the entire Sorceress game creation suite. So for this, we're going to head on over into Sprite.ly, which we just recently took a look at. We're going to take a look at this again because I didn't really get to demonstrate the kind of cool way that we can now create animated gameplay sprites. So let's see. We want to grab our character as he walks, right? So there's our kind of like, say, first frame, the right foot starts to kind of come up or whatever, and you can kind of tweak how you want, right? So, okay, there goes 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Did WAN give us a full cycle? Pretty close, maybe not quite. I might want to refine the actual generation of this to be a little bit better, because there's going to be a little hiccup there, but that's okay. Just for the sake of this example, I can go ahead and click on Start Processing now. And by the way, you don't need to extract every single frame. You can extract every 2 frames, every 3 frames, and still get quite a smooth animation that doesn't require as many frames. But I'm just going to show you the basic workflow here. So we've got our character now. All of the individual frames are extracted from that video animation. I'm going to go ahead and chroma key out the color that I don't want. I forgot to remove his shadow, and that's something you'll have to get kind of familiar with. There's certain things you're going to want to do to prepare your character assets correctly. And I am seeing that there's actually too much color within the character that matches the color of the background. I should have put him on a nice green screen. I didn't. Well, that's okay. This is a tutorial. and usually that'll be a really clean cut if you got them on a nice green screen or something like that. Okay, so let's actually just carry on so I can show you the whole process. Let's say I want my character at, okay, 256, but now you see we've got so much background there. Let's add a little more chroma key, and I'm just going to reset him by clicking the resolution again. There we go. So that's pretty good, except for his outlying halo, and that is normally a problem with different background removals, is that you'll get a bit of a halo. That's why I wrote the halo remover section. It's actually just meant to remove a few pixels from around the edge of the character, and generally creates quite a nice clean result. So eventually what we've got here, and keep in mind this isn't quite perfect, it would have been better with a green screen, but I'm going to go ahead and download that sprite sheet. And there we have our sprite sheet, perfectly aligned and ready to use. And now another cool feature of the Sorceress game creation suite is the sprite analyzer. I'm going to grab my sprite and drag it and drop it into my sprite analyzer section here. And now sometimes auto detects work, sometimes it doesn't. There we go, that time it worked, and it actually detected all the frames, and it knows that the last one is 150, and it should actually put that in automatically there. And if you click play now, we can see that we've got our animated sprite. Now the FPS is a bit slow, so I might want to see how that's at 60 or 90 even, whatever FPS I want. And we didn't perfectly align this walk cycle for the sake of this tutorial. If you were doing this for real, you'd want to get that a little bit more smooth, but that's okay. Now the thing is that what we've got down here is code that we can give to Cursor or Visual Studio or whatever our AI coding agent assistant is, and we can say, okay, this is the name of our sprite sheet file name, and this is the code that we want to use, and it'll say, okay, it knows that there's 150 frames, it knows we want to play at 90 frames per second. So basically it'll take what you've determined works for this sprite sheet, and you can just give it that code and it'll know exactly how to set that sprite sheet up perfectly within your game. By the way, if the auto detect doesn't work, that's no problem. You can just manually count out, okay, 13 by whatever it was, 13 by 12, and you can put in however many you need to get that to, what was it, 13 by 12? 13 by 12 to get that lined up, and then you can set the start and end frame manually. So yeah, like I say, this is meant to give you the code that you then copy and paste to your coding agent, and you just tell it the file name of your sprite. Say, okay, I've got a sprite file named mysprite.png. Here's the code for how to, animate it, and then just give that to your coding agent, and it'll put the character together for you. Alright, let's glance around at some of the other Sorceress features. Over here I've added one called Spelljammer. Now I got this little badger character who's meant to kind of play around with different particle effects when you're coding with Phaser, and this is designed to work with Phaser, which is great for 2D development, cross-platform. But for example, I've got a few spells that are preloaded here with the little character. Okay, we got like a fireball, and you can test out how different spell effects look. And then you can actually go right into the code, and you could, for example, you could say, okay, new spell effect, and whatever is loaded in this little section over here is the particle effect that will play. So you could say, okay, here's our spell effect. You could copy and paste that over to your Cursor coding agent and say, okay, this is the spell we want, but let's say turn it into like a frozen ice ball instead of a fireball, or say, okay, create me a spell effect that does whatever you want it to do, right? Whatever you want it to do. And then you just take the code that Cursor gives you for your spell or your particle effect, and you paste it into this section right in here, and you can quickly and easily preview different visual effects within the Sorceress game. Now, this is just meant to be a playground to see how different visual effects work. So whatever you paste in here will just play in here, and you can just test out the effect. Just a little playground. I've got something similar over here with Particle Designer, but this area actually lets you manually tweak some of the different effects on particle creation with the Phaser JavaScript game engine, which I think is probably a really good way to go when it comes to vibe coding for multi-platform stuff. So you can go in here and you can figure out what you like, and then you scroll down to the bottom and you can click on export settings, and whatever visual effect you've kind of created in here, you can copy and paste that code, give it to Cursor or your favorite AI coding agent, and say, okay, this is the spell effect that I want to play for whatever, and you've got your spell effect figured out, or your particle effect, and you know how it looks. And then you can just give it the code in order to make it that way. So one way or the other. This way is meant to basically get your coding agent to give you code, and you can just play around with what it gives you. And this is kind of the manual way if you want to sort of manually tweak how the visual effect works, and then give your coding agent the code itself. I pre-programmed in a few default settings so you can play around with stuff and see what those actually look like when you go to export. So you can just kind of like throw in some, okay, there's some stars or whatever. I think this might need a reset, but anyway, that's the point. Spelljammer and Particle Designer to play around with phaser effects. Sprite Analyzer we've covered. The SFX area over here is meant to just be a really quick and easy way to drag in a like an MP3 file. Oh, was that not an MP3 file? I think, okay, let's try one that's actually an MP3 file. Or let's do it this way. There we go. Okay. Maybe the drag and drop's glitching. I'll have to get that fixed. Okay, so basically this is just like a really quick and easy way to have your to kind of slice up different audio. So maybe you're generating audio with like Kling or something like that. You've got like your audio files coming out of some sort of AI generator. I've been using Kling lately. I've got a video on how to use Kling for generating sound effects for your game, by the way, on this channel if you want to check that out and learn how to do that. But what you end up with usually is a waveform that has like a lot of space on the left or the right, and maybe you just want like a little section of it, right? So that's where I just created the handy little SFX generator. There's your start point, there's your end point. You can, there's my narration, never mind about that. This is just a long narration, actually. It's probably not a great example. But for example, I can just save a little, crop out a little section of it. I can give it a little fade in, a little fade out. I can adjust the volume if I want to. And then I can just go ahead and download that section. And there's my sound effect that's basically ready to go. Also, over here, this is a pretty cool thing. Now, this is your tileset generator. Now, this was tricky to figure out. What I eventually figured out is that there's two good models for this. Imagen 4 Ultra by Google and GPT Image 1.5, which was just released very recently. Now, if I was to go ahead and click on Generate Tileset, what I'm going to get here is the likelihood of a seamless repeating tileset. So in this case, it's important what you say. So I put in some pre-fill information here so you can kind of maybe use that template. As you can see, this one actually did not come out very well. This one's got little edges, you can see. So this sometimes takes a few tries in order to get a seamless repeating tileset, but it usually happens within a couple few tries, and you can get like a perfectly seamless repeating tileset for whatever sort of environment you want. Let's so forest. Yeah, that one actually looks, yeah, there we go. So this is how the tileset is at its regular single individual, and this is how it looks when it's tiled together. So this is actually 4 tiles. This is actually the image repeated, right? So there's 1 image, 2 image, 3 image, 4 image, and it's tiled basically seamlessly, so you can't see the seams. Now that's a nice repeating tile that you could use in your game. You can go ahead and download that at whatever pixel size that you like. But you can basically do this with basically anything, right? So, okay, so forest tile set, tileable, all direction, consistent lighting. So go ahead and do that. So you can play around with what you like. Google Imagen 4 Ultra or GPT Image 1.5. I would recommend probably the high setting for GPT Image 1.5. Actually, I need to adjust that price. It's more like 10 cents for high and 5 cents for medium. There we go. That actually came out well. So there's our tile set for our forest, and there's our seamless repeating tile set for, yeah, so like I say, you can play around with those two models. They're both capable of repeating tiles. Pretty much no other model out there is capable. Even Google's like Nano Banana and stuff like that couldn't do seamless repeating, but Imagen 4 Ultra and GPT 1.5 were capable of actually creating really nice repeating tile sets. And a few simple quality of life AI tools. This is Expander, where you can, for example, let's say you've got a square image of something, a game character or whatever, and say you want it to be a different resolution of image, but you can't make a square into a landscape. You got to do a little bit of AI expanding. So basically, I choose my canvas size that I want. I click on Expand Image. And you can also give it some direction as to how to expand this image, forest background, whatever. You can just leave it blank and it'll do the best it can based on that. So let's see here. There we've got our expanded image. So it used to be a square, now it's a full size, whatever resolution I set. I forget now, 4:3 or whatever. Okay, now we've also got over here just a handy little paint tool feature. This is basically Microsoft Paint, nothing really much more fancy than that, but if you just want to be able to make a quick edit to your graphic, you can come on in here. You can do a little bit of editing and save your Sprite or whatever. It's just a easier than opening up Canva or something, I find. Also, now this is a handy section over here. This is utilities, where what I've got in here is basically everything you're going to need in order to actually publish your game. So for example, one of the things you're going to run into if you're making an app or something like that, one of the issues you're going to run into is perhaps a large file sizes. You can only have 200 megabytes as your app size on the Google Play Store, for example. You might want to scale down all of your, AI generated artwork to be a little bit more reasonable. So I've got a few things in here like compress JPEG, convert PNG to JPEG, resize images, and the nice thing about this is you can do them in batch, right? So you can grab all your images that you might need to resize down, all your icons, and you just do them in batch, set them to a fixed width or height, and just very quickly and easily resize things. Reduce PNG colors is really helpful. This makes your PNGs very small, and for sprites and things like that, they're usually quite a large size when you generate them with AI tools, but then you can convert them down to a reduced color PNG and get smaller and smaller and more optimized files. I've got a similar feature here for compressing MP3s. You can convert your MP3 files and sound effects and music and stuff into a smaller bit rate, and that will reduce its file size a lot. Resizing video, also very useful if you're making adding little videos into your mobile games and you just want them to be a nice small resolution. Maybe you're generating them with your AI tools and they come out at 720, but you want them all to be 240 or 360. Handy little batch resize feature. Also, handy little feature to resize, or rather adjust the volume of any of your MP3 files. And the nice thing about this, again, is if you've got an entire directory full of sound effects and they're all too loud and you don't want to adjust them with the code, you want to hard adjust that sound, now you can just upload them all, set what volume level you want them to set to, and batch adjust everything. I've got a handy little notes feature here for you can keep your game development notes on a nice dark background to save your eye strain. And then over here what we've got is a link to the folders on your PC, because the nice thing about the Sorceress game creation suite is that it actually runs a little application, a little Python server on your computer, which gives us access to your games folder, which means that you can actually load up your games folder, so you can do live development on your local computer and not need to upload anything or upload anything to the Sorceress editor, and you can have whatever changes you make appear live in this handy little preview window where you've got all your games in your games folder that you've got linked up. And then the nice thing over here is that I've programmed in all the different screen sizes, all the different screen resolutions. So you got your iPhone 5 size. How would your game look at iPhone 5? How would it look with desktop, tablet sizes? All these different screen resolutions, so you can make sure that your game is friendly across all screen sizes. And then last but not least, we've got layout over here. This is the super screen adjuster tool. So basically what you do is you select which game you're working on, and then you've got your saved layout. So I've just got one called tileset here. It's meant to say test, but obviously I spelled that wrong. And so what I've got here is a pre-programmed batch of window sizes. So this is just, for example, I've got the iPhone 5, SE, and whatever, but you can add in as many different devices as you want to test preview, and when you do that, they'll just appear down below. And you can actually even kind of group these however you want. So say I want like 2 of these in the same window, you can do that, and each one has a handy little refresh option here. You can actually scale in and scale out. These are just kind of loading I guess my game's a little bit large to load. So these are just loading, but there we go. Now they're all starting to load. So what you can actually do is you can preview all your different screen sizes kind of all at once. So, as you're tweaking, you can just kind of like, okay, I'm working on this size, give that little refresh. How's it looking now? Working on that size, how's it looking now? It's just like an all-in-one place to confirm and validate that your screen sizes are okay. I've also added in this true size feature where what you do is you select your monitor size. There's mine, 31.5 inch, or you can put in a custom monitor size if you want to, and you see, okay, what's the actual true size of these devices? Believe it or not, the iPhone 5 is actually only that big, and I've tested this. I've measured it. I put my little iPhone 5 up to the screen, and yeah, it's only that big. Now, the thing about mobile sizes is that they do a 2-to-1 pixel ratio, so when things are a little blurry, font-wise, it's actually going to be clearer on the player's phone. But you do get a pretty good sense for how big elements are on your screen, so you can use that handy little true size feature. And lastly, over on the Deploy tab, just a handy little way to access all of your games in your Games folder, and all you need to do is enter in your GitHub link to your game, and then go ahead and click on Deploy whenever you want to push a Git Deploy update. Super easy. Okay, so that's a look at the Sorceress Game Creation Suite for now. Nice thing about this is I'm going to be constantly adding new features to these, and as they arrive and as they roll out, they'll just appear in your Sorceress Game Creation Suite editor. Okay, that's it. Hope you guys enjoy these tools. Like I say, I made this for myself, but I ended up using it so much, I figured I should probably put out a public version, and here it is.